We're responding to a two-car blocking injury accident. We have two patients complaining of neck pain at this time.
The patient is no longer going to Virginia Mason but Harborview?
A lot of times when you go to a car accident, there are what appears to be very minor damage to the vehicle, yet because the people aren't restrained inside, they impact the inside of the vehicle. You know, they're flying around the car because they're not restrained, and they actually impact the objects and the edges of the vehicle.
Neither the driver or the passenger were wearing their seatbelts, so the passenger hit her head on something, probably the windshield, and is laying on the ground over there having some kind of seizures. Sister says she doesn't have any history of seizures, so the seizures are probably caused from hitting her head on the windshield because she wasn't wearing her seatbelt.
Across the United States, 40,000 Americans die each year in automobile collisions. Law enforcement, paramedics, and other emergency medical responders, emergency room doctors, and nurses, these people all see firsthand the physical and emotional trauma that collisions cause. Trauma nurse Joanne Fairchild sees firsthand the horrible injuries that result when people don't wear their seatbelts.
I know in my heart that if the parents that we take care of with these severe brain injuries, spinal cord injuries, if they had really understood what that choice was going to do to their family members, they would have chosen to buckle up. And I've had people come to this going, no, the cops have anything better to do? No, they don't. If we really want law enforcement protecting us and our families, then the most important thing they should be doing is enforcing traffic laws, because that's how we die. We're not killed by people we don't know coming into our homes in the middle of the night and murdering us. We are killed in our cars because we don't think it's important. We have the personal right to do whatever we want to and all that.
Woodinville, Washington, an auto salvage yard, home to thousands of crashed vehicles. One person who spends a lot of time here is Rob Kaufman, federal crash investigator for the Harborview Injury Prevention and Research Center. For years, Kaufman has been involved in a federal research study called SIREN, or the Crash Injury Research and Engineering Network.
Our main goal here is to get out and actually look at real-world crashes and study actually how people are being injured in crashes. A lot of the work that the engineers are doing are really based on the crash test dummies, and what we're out doing is documenting real-world crashes, seeing how people are being injured in crashes, and use that data to help build the cars and make them safer for us to protect us if we unfortunately be in a crash. And when you study the forces that are involved in a crash, just going 30, 35 miles an hour into a wall or into a tree, that's equivalent to jumping from a 3-story building. And when you're in a crash, the seatbelt basically can manage that force against your body safely. It can reduce your risk of injury by over half, and some of the data that we've been seeing is almost 3/4 of the risk of injury can be reduced by just putting your seatbelt on.
A recent study in Japan estimated that drivers and front seat passengers are at a 5 times greater risk of dying in car crashes if the rear passengers are not wearing seatbelts. The most dramatic effect was seen in head-on collisions when backseat passengers are catapulted forward into the front seat and into the upper body and head of the driver and front seat passenger. The study estimated that the number of deaths could have been reduced almost 80% if backseat passengers had been wearing seatbelts.
I usually don't wear a seatbelt when I'm driving around town. I'm not going very fast, not going very far, and I've got an airbag, so I think I'm pretty well protected.
Some people feel that they don't need to wear a seatbelt because they have an airbag in the car. An airbag is a great safety device, but the design of the airbag requires that the person be secured in their seat by the seatbelt.
Here's a vehicle that's a very large vehicle, and it is a pretty serious frontal hit. And when you come around and look at the interior, you can tell this person was not wearing their seatbelt because it locks in place, and now you can't pull it back out of the seat. But when you look at all the injury patterns and actually the mechanisms here of the person, there's a head contact up into the windshield with some hair, cracks to the dashboard. The airbag does deploy, and probably you can see here the steering column's been hit probably with the chest and has come loose. And then down below here, you can see here's the contacts of one of the legs, and you can see a contact of the other leg. So both legs are being hit very hard into the instrument panel, along with coming up into the dashboard, face and head into the windshield, and then this person or driver falls over to the side, and you can see all the blood on the other bag and laid there till probably medics arrived. So big vehicle, and the integrity of the car is still very much intact. If this person was wearing a seatbelt, none of these injuries would have ever occurred.
We've seen the devastating effects of not buckling up, but wearing a seatbelt incorrectly can also be dangerous. Some common misuses of a seatbelt are placing the lap belt across the abdomen instead of low over the hips, placing the shoulder belt underneath the arm, having the lap belt or shoulder belt slack.
Well, when I come to an accident scene and I see someone injured, it just makes me think that if they had been wearing their seatbelt, this probably wouldn't have happened. So I think they play a major part in saving lives in highway accidents.
In Washington State, most people wear their seatbelt. If you're someone that doesn't, keep in mind that you could be pulled over and given a $101 ticket. You could even be ticketed for every unbuckled motorist in your car who is under the age of 16. People age 16 and older who aren't buckled up could get their own seatbelt ticket, even if they are not driving.
Another scary part of our job is when we do get to the scene of a collision and one of the people in the car says, "Oh, where's my buddy?" or "Where's my husband?" or "Where's my wife?" or "Where's my children?" And immediately when you look in the car, you don't see them around there. And that's one of the worst feelings that you can have, is to be at a collision scene and not be able to find everyone who's supposed to be in the vehicle.
When someone chooses not to wear a seatbelt, we all pay for that decision in higher taxes, higher medical costs, and higher insurance premiums. On average, inpatient hospital care costs for unbelted crash victims are 50% higher than for people who buckle up. A 10% improvement in our seatbelt use rate reduces hospital costs in Washington State by $51 million each year.
I don't wear seatbelts because they hurt across my collarbone when I'm driving. It's really uncomfortable.
A lot of people say seatbelt makes you uncomfortable. Wah. You want to be uncomfortable, you want to sit in a chair, you want to be dead. The choices are yours.
When you walk into a yard like this and see the thousands of cars and the many lives that were affected by crashes, you hope that they all had their seatbelts on and survived this safely.
Statistics show that if you live to the age of 70, you have a 1 in 3 chance of being in a major automobile collision in your lifetime. A seatbelt will cut in half your chance of dying in a collision. Stated more simply, odds are really good that for many of you watching this program, a seatbelt will save your life. Problem is, they only work if you wear them. I'm Jim Tobin.
Okay, this surgery I was telling you about I was having, I had them 2 days ago. It's a laparoscopy.